I'm observing and collecting the stories.
But it's adding up, right? So you also talk about the importance of the Bible, in which women are deemed subservient.
No, they're not. That's complete rubbish.
Now this, to me, seems like a different thing from what you were saying before, and it's just in the manner that you're expressing yourself now. I think it's much clearer now what you are actually against, and how you see these male-female dynamics.
Well, the funny thing is that I'm not so much against. You know, this is why interviews are so strange. Mm-hmm. When I do my lectures, I don't talk politically. I'm not against things. I'm for individual people. Individual people. So get out there, do your best, tell the truth, set the world in order, have a family, accept some responsibility, fix up your community, and take the beam out of your own eye before you worry about the mote in your neighbors.
Yeah. And I like that part of 12 rules and of everything that you're saying. But then there seems to be this other side, or it comes out in interviews sometimes, but it's also in 12 rules, where you equate the feminine with chaos.
I don't do that.
No,
that's ridiculous. I know. The Taoists have done that for 3,000 years.
I know, but
right, it's not me.
No.
Right.
But you're selecting, right? You write a book which is an antidote to chaos, and you're selecting the stories in which the feminine is chaos, and also I'm
observing and collecting the stories.
But it's adding up, right? So you also talk about the importance of the Bible, in which women are deemed subservient.
No, they're not. That's complete rubbish. How in the world could you possibly derive that idea from biblical readings? The most fundamental statement in the Bible, and this is a miraculous statement, it's absolutely incomprehensible that it was written some thousands of years ago. Men and women are made in the image of God. Not men. Men and women.
But you know that there's also passages in there which do posit the woman as subservient.
What passages are you referring to?
Well, where it's told to Adam and Eve that women will henceforth have to obey their husband.
Well, that wasn't what would you say? That wasn't a divine injunction. It was a terrible warning.
Okay,
it wasn't a statement about how society should be structured. It was a statement about the inevitability of that happening, because women were going to be vulnerable in pregnancy and in child raising.
Now, I understand your interpretation. You're interpreting the Bible and you're interpreting Nietzsche and bringing it all together. It's fine that you're doing that in your way. But can you understand that to women it may feel like you are against them?
What do you mean it may feel to women? Like, there's no injunction in that story.
No, but
that men have the right to lord it over women. No, it's not in the story.
It's not just this story, of course. You know,
There's heroic females in the entire corpus of the Old Testament, and there's no evidence whatsoever throughout the biblical corpus that women are any less worthy of the kingdom of God than men. And so this is part of the same thing. There's the pervasive notion that even the fundamental documents of Western civilization have this inbuilt patriarchal bias. Look, as far as I'm concerned, that statement that men and women are both made in the image of God, which gives them each a spark of divinity, out of that tiny little statement grew the entire idea of individual human rights. The idea that the state couldn't impose its purview past a certain limit, and that idea grew over thousands of years to provide the relatively free society that we have now. And to assume that is associated in some manner with patriarchal oppression, especially given the time when that was written, is just think about how unlikely it was that long ago those words were penned.
But Jordan, please listen to the question that I'm trying to pose, and it's not about this, it's about everything adding up, and that makes women feel that somehow you are against them. And wait a minute before before you answer, because you're all about taking responsibility and that it's very important to look at the consequences of what we do. And somehow a lot of women feel like you're against them. So what's going on there? What's your responsibility here?
You have no evidence whatsoever of what proportion of the people who are watching my videos or listening to my podcast or reading my books who are women feel that way. Your accusations are purely speculative.
It's not. It's not an accusation.
Sure,
it's just an observation. It was
but an observation based on what?
Well,
I have women I have dozens of women, hundreds of women who've written me letters thanking me for the books and for what they've done for their sons and for their husbands. And about 30% of the audiences to my shows are now women, and that's increasing as a consequence of the book.
Of course.
So I don't
not
buy
all
it.
women. Not all women.
Yeah, well, there's a small and unspecified percentage of women who may hold the perspective that you describe, but you have no idea what the percentage is, and you have no hard facts on it, and so there's no way of defending myself against it. And the idea that I happen to identify the feminine with chaos why is that a problem? Chaos is no worse than order. Order is tyranny. Chaos is possibility. The mere fact that people don't do a close enough reading to understand that these two powers are equally balanced, in that order can be security or tyranny, and that chaos can be potential or uncertainty. The fact that people aren't reading carefully enough to understand that is not my problem. They could read it carefully enough to understand that. And to say that that's a fabrication on my part is absolutely foolish. I mean, for 40 years, let's say the mystic left has been enamored of the Taoist philosophy. Well, the philosophy that I'm putting forward is the Taoist philosophy. So how in the world can that be laid at my feet? And it's certainly not the only example of the symbolic utilization of masculinity for order. Look at it this way. Why do you think the feminists assume that we live in a patriarchy if they're not identifying masculinity with order? That's what they're doing. Well, they're doing it symbolically. They don't understand. It's a symbolic issue.
Yeah, but Jordan, you've been asked this question before, but I didn't think your answer, I wasn't quite convinced yet. Your book is an antidote to chaos and not an antidote to chaos and order, or not.
The next book's an antidote to order.
Yeah, it will be an antidote to order.
And the book isn't an antidote. The book is the antidote to chaos is not order.
No.
Right, that's not what the book's about. The antidote to chaos is the balance between order and chaos, right? And the book says that repeatedly. It's impossible to read it and actually read it and not to come away with the conclusion that the position that I'm adopting is that the meaningful place to stand in life is halfway in order and halfway in chaos.